If not friend, then why friend-shaped? The human cries out after you denied to let them pet your homeworld's most dangerous predator. Right by you/Andreas B. Strex led the human around a thicket of trees, and they found themselves in a glade of swaying gobble flowers. He had never gone this deep into the nature preserve before, but the human Matt, he called himself, had insisted, and against his better judgment, Strex gave in. The human made a sound that Strex had learned meant he was impressed. Wow, he said, strolling into the glade. Look at them move. The glistening bulbs of the flowers turned at the sound, opening slowly in anticipation of a meal. Matt chuckled and reached out with his fingers. Don't touch it, Strex cried. They secrete acid that dissolves flesh. Matt snatched back his hand. Ah. Strex let out a frustrated gurgle and glided closer. Guiding humans was like herding hatchlings. Not only were they insatiably curious, they couldn't seem to resist poking their appendages at everything in sight. Something rustled in the trees, and Strex raised its eye stalks. Human, we should leave. Already? But we just got here. Do as I say, he snapped, scanning the tree line in alarm. All right, don't get your panties in a bunch. Strex didn't understand the expression but didn't have the time to ask what it meant. He glided back the way they had come, eye stalks swiveling at every noise. Then the thicket parted, and a Ralox stepped into the glade, the flowers shying away from its 6 crushing hooves. Strex froze. The predator towered even over the lanky human, bristling with red fur that rivaled steel in toughness. 4 huge eyes zeroed in on the two of them. Holy moly, the human muttered. Strex made a mental note to ask what kind of a holy figure this moly was if they survived. At least the human had the common sense to realize the situation warranted prayer. Back away, slowly, he said in a low voice. It doesn't recognize your scent, so it should be more curious than hungry. Matt stared at the creature in awe, then stepped closer. The predator paused in its approach, directing its eyes down at him, its dark red nose quivering as it took in the unfamiliar scent. What are you doing? Strex hissed. Matt spared him a glance. It looks so cuddly. Strex quivered. I've seen Ralox tear apart armored vehicles. They are certainly not cuddly. Heedless, the human took another step. Strex started toward him to pull him back but stopped. Better the fool alone dies than both of them. Matt slowly raised his hand and allowed the creature to sniff it. Strex's fear pheromones flooded the glade. It was only the beast's confusion that prevented it from taking a bite out of the human, but it wouldn't last. Matt patted the quivering nose. Boop, he muttered, giggling. The Ralox reared back and opened its maw, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth. Strex closed most of his eyes so he wouldn't have to watch the human getting swallowed. Phew, Matt said, waving his hand before his noise. Hang on, there's something stuck there. With foolishness beyond comprehension, the human stuck his hand into the beast's mouth and dislodged an unrecognizable piece of its prior prey. He eyed it with macabre interest, then shrugged and tossed it down the Ralox's throat. The beast swallowed convulsively, then blinked. That's better, isn't it? Matt said, patting its snout. The Ralox flinched away, paused as if in thought, then nudged the human's hand of its own accord. Matt cooed and stroked its snout. The Ralox began making rumbling noises that Strex had only heard in documentaries that captured the creatures interacting with their own kind. He retracted his eye stalks, then stuck them out again, suspecting he was hallucinating. It's so cuddly, Matt exclaimed. Who's a good boy? Who's a good boy? The Ralox snorted and collapsed onto its side, exposing its belly. Its enormous eyes swiveled toward the human, and it let out a pitiful whine. This sound Strex didn't even know the creature could make. Oh, you want to be petted here too? Matt said, stroking its belly. You like that, huh? His deft fingers seemed to zero in on any itchy spots because in no time at all the Ralox was rumbling happily, its fearsome hooves raking the ground. How? Strex demanded. How did you know how to tame it? Matt laughed. I dunno. It just looked friend-shaped so I figured it was a friend, you know? Strex's eye stalks wavered. As usual, the human's words made no sense. He tried to recall what was the threat level of their species in the database. Whatever it was, he thought as he watched Matt play with the planet's apex predator, it ought to be higher.